just a minute to get logged on and join us. If you are joining us and you can hear my prompt, please share with us in the chat where the school site or region that you're from, so we can get an idea of who's with us today. If you wish, share it in the chat so we know where you're joining us from. Oh, chat is disabled because we want everybody to use the Q&A. Well, there goes that suggestion. Yep, thanks for the reminder. Okay, well, Sign Queen, if you'll advance to the next slide, I want to make sure we're going to keep on time and respect everybody being here on time. I'm Kristen. I am part of the executive office team at the California Student Aid Commission. Wanted to let you know that we intend to wrap up on time and we should be here for 1 hour and be ready to go at 10 a.m. As we all just discovered, the chat has been disabled, and that's because we want to be sure that you all use the Q&A. We have staff standing by ready to answer those questions, and it's much easier for us and better for you to have our responses tied into the questions that you ask. If you're just joining us, you may not have heard that we are recording the webinar, and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel, which is listed there. And as always, we definitely want you to join us on social media. Our handles are listed on the slide below. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director, Dr. Daisy Gonzalez, and she's going to walk through our agenda with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning, everyone. And yes, please use the Q&A chat. Happy New Year. It is January 9th, 2025. And if you notice, we moved our regular webinars by 1 day. So we're meeting on a Thursday. The rest of them will be typically on a Wednesday. And you'll see the calendar for 2025 at the end of this webinar. I'm going to ask the team behind the scenes, Sign Queen, if you could move forward one slide. I was really inspired this morning. There's already a lot going on in 2025, as you know, and I was inspired to see throughout the holidays so many of you keeping and beating at the heart of what we need to be doing, and that is reminding our students that higher education is possible for all of them, and that completing a FAFSA or a CADA is always an option. So I wanted to put this slide together and just thank our partners, Pique. I saw UC Davis did a lot of outreach for their students, youth to leaders in partnership with Kern County, and a lot of legislators throughout the holidays were supporting all of your work. So I know that here at our webinars, we have a lot of financial aid counselors, high school counselors, a lot of our community-based organizations. And I wanted to show you that this is the collective work that it takes for us to be successful. And so you have people behind the scenes doing the work. I also saw this morning, Pique did an incredible newsletter for all of their parents, all the details for 2025, including the new work that came out of our implementation work group, which is dismantling all of the myths that exist about financial aid. So thank you for our colleagues who are doing that work. I look forward to sharing more of your work at future webinars, and just thank you, thank you, thank you. Next slide, please. I want to then now transition to today's agenda because there is a lot going on in the world. And as I do this, I want to first acknowledge all of you who may be in harm, who may have family members or friends or students who are living in the LA County area and are currently experiencing a fire. I want to make sure, one, that everyone is safe. And so here from the CSAC team, hoping that you are safe. And I want to also remind you that last year, through the work of the CSAC team, our Deputy Director, Jake Brimner, reminded us yesterday that we have AB 2500 from Assemblymember Fong. And this was the Emergency Extension Equity and Financial Aid legislation, which allows the CSAC team to act with urgency to provide community, students, and families the flexibility that they need during an emergency. I want to let you know that the LA fire is absolutely an emergency. It has actually been established as an emergency by Governor Governor Newsom. So you will see communication from the CSAC team to make sure that we can provide that flexibility to students and families. So know that is coming. There's communication coming. But if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or just reach out to the CSAC team. For today, though, I want to focus in on the work that is ahead for us. I woke up this morning with a lot of hope and really big reminders of what our collective work is as we move into 2025. And our job is very clear. Now more than ever, our job is to give students and families hope and options. And that is what we have here with today's speakers, with today's agenda. And so I'll get us started with the agenda and just share this is what most of our agendas will look like in 2025. You're always going to hear from us, CSAC updates, state and federal, anything that is shifting. You will always hear a data pulse. Where are we with our data? What does completion look like by region, by application, and as much as we can, even getting into the nitty-gritty of a community. We also then will always feature our partner presenters. What is that expertise that we need to be disseminating across the state that we can all learn from? And then we'll also always do reminders about the next webinar. So that is what your agenda looks like today. For today, I want to thank the CSAC team, our Deputy Director Jake Brimner, Deputy Director Jessica Moldoff, and then of course this morning you'll always have commissioner welcoming you. We want to make sure that you as practitioners, as experts in this community, get to know our commissioners. So this morning, we have our student commissioner, Commissioner Saravia, joining us for Northridge in the LA County area to welcome you all this morning. You will also hear from the CEO of You Aspire, Jacqueline Pinero, and Council Director Linda Dowdy. So thank you for sticking it out with us and staying throughout the entire webinar. Next slide, please. I start my day every day by reading our mission statement because no matter what comes at me, I know what I'm here to do. And so you will always hear me share this with you at every single webinar. Our mission at the California Student Aid Commission is to promote educational equity by making post-secondary education affordable for all Californians. That means that we at CSAC, we care that students complete their FAFSA and their CADA because it is at the front lines of what it means to access higher education. So completing an application is for the purposes of students being able to access their higher education dreams. Next slide, please. To that end, I want to remind you of where we have been. So we know that here in California, our application opened up on December 1st. That means we are on January 9th and we are getting a head start. And so you'll see that in that data this morning from Dr. Moldoff as she shares that. You also know that here in California, we took early action to say mixed status families, you can and should continue to use CADA. And we encourage you to complete FAFSA when you feel safe. It is an option. We also shared with all of you that we would have these webinars because everything is changing in real time. And you all know this. There is a federal administration change coming up. Now you have a fire. And so there will always be a need for us to stay in communication. That is why we have created these webinars. And then there is ongoing advocacy. It is not news to any of you that we have seen declines in CADA over the last number of years, and that all of these changes, particularly for our most vulnerable populations, are impacting students, and they are then having to make constrained choices about whether they are completing a FAFSA or a CADA. And so I want to remind us of the collective work, for the advocacy work that we have, particularly as we head into tomorrow. Tomorrow, Governor Newsom will unveil his state budget plan. So next slide, please. And that will be shared with everyone across the state. We at CSAC, in partnership with all of our stakeholders, particularly those who are a part of our statewide implementation work group, have been asking for the following emergency actions to be taken. Number one, you see a deadline extension to April, additional resources to expand our call center, additional resources to support high-need regions. These are the communities where we are seeing those data drops, those applications continue to drop, and yet we know that there are students enrolled in those communities in high schools and in higher education, so we want those students to persist. And then additional resources for communication. These are additional advocacy actions that I will continue throughout the year, and I will keep bringing them up here because I need your help. CSAC needs your help. And as you can see, these are very modest requests. In total, it's a $1 million investment. Many of these are one time. And this is just what it's going to take to help us sustain and help students believe in their dreams. So as we head into tomorrow, as you hear about the state budget, I just ask that you keep CSAC and students and families at the top of your own advocacy agendas as you're thinking about what it takes to help students believe in their dreams. We cannot forget that the cost of attendance, that the cost of higher education is always the number one reason why students choose to not believe in their dreams, meaning they prefer and would actually have no choice but to really believe that housing, food, their families are more important than their education. And so we have to do everything that we can to give them those options. Financial aid is critical for students and families to continue to believe in their dreams. So I'm going to go to the next slide and just introduce an incredible student speaker. She's a commissioner for the California Student Aid Commission. And I'm so grateful that she's joining us this morning because I know that she is in the LA County area. And so Commissioner Saravia, without further delay, I just want to thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for welcoming everyone that's here in today's webinar. And you are here because we wanted to make sure that all of our webinars start with the enthusiasm and the love, the support that we need throughout the rest of the year to help students believe in their dreams. And you are that speaker to help us rally around that vision and that mission. So I want to hand it over to you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me today. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to wish you all a happy new year from LA, I'm actually from Hollywood, so I'm a commuter student. But as Daisy had mentioned, my name is Curie Saravia. I serve as one of the student commissioners at CSAC, ensuring that student voices within the CSU and beyond are being served and have a place at the table. I'm actually studying to become an English teacher at the high school level. So serving the students is something that has always been near and dear to my heart. And it is something that I see myself doing for the rest of my life. But I'm just here to remind everyone that the CSAC Commission's Northern Star has always been and will continue to be California students, supporting them and making it known that higher education has always been an option for them is extremely important to our commission. And it is important for all of us to remind our students that financial aid, such as FAFSA and CADA, are deserved for all of our students that are eligible for it. That this aid was created to ensure that higher education becomes an affordable option to our students and an option to many others. So I'm just here to remind all of you here who are so sorry, high school counselors and teachers and financial aid advisors, just to give you that push that you all need to continue to advocate for your students and continue to push them to fill out their FAFSA and their CADA applications. It has been a really tough last year with the new FAFSA rollout, which has affected many students. But because of CSAC's amazing team and because of the advocacy work that CSAC has done, a lot of students that are coming from mixed status families and undocumented status still have the option to get financial aid even without FAFSA. And I think that that is 100% an amazing way to show not only the students but also people that serve students that CSAC will always have the students' best intentions at heart. And as a student commissioner, it's such a comforting feeling to know that CSAC will always have not only my back but my sisters and my friends back all the time, no matter what and no matter the circumstances of the rest of the state or the country. So welcome, and I'm so excited to be kicking off my new year and my start here at the commission with all of you. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner. My name is Dr. Jessica Moldoff. I'm the Deputy Director here at CSAC for the Data Analysis and Research Team. So as Dr. Gonzalez mentioned, we're going to start in today with a little bit of data, everyone's favorite activity for a morning. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So first I want to give an overview of the different dashboards that are available, both through CSAC, that of course are California focused, as well as the very commonly nationally used FAFSA tracker that the National College Attainment Network, NCAN, publishes. I think a lot of people made good use of it last year, especially in seeing how different states were faring. But it's important to know across these dashboards, something that we inevitably get is like, why is our number different from the other one? Because there are a couple key differences among all these dashboards. First of all, only 2 out of 4 of these dashboards are currently being updated for the 25-26 year due to, I don't think NCAN has set up theirs yet. And then we recently created a community college dashboard that we haven't yet opened up for 25-26 because we need to build out some more features of that dashboard. But I will say that the race to submit is on for 25-26. So we do have that dashboard, the first one on the left side, which has both FAFSA and CADA applications for all public high schools in California. It's also broken out by districts and counties, as well as the overall count. It's updated, I believe, 2 times a week, though I think we're looking into doing it almost daily. And also the high school senior proxy. So this is basically something that is the main reason why different dashboards disagree, because the NCAN dashboard, for instance, only uses age as a proxy. Basically, anyone who's 19 or younger is considered a high school senior. Versus our race to submit dashboard, because we do have GPA data from the LEAs, we're able to directly match those students to their high schools. So it's a little bit more accurate than the NCAN dashboard. I will say the NCAN dashboard also includes private high schools. So if you ever wonder why their high school senior count is higher, it's because they're including those private schools as well. But our race assessment dashboard, of course, is supporting the AB 469 mission for Universal FAFSA CADA, which has a requirement on only those public and charter LEAs in California. And then it also lists both the submitted incompletes. And of course, there's the leaderboard because it is a race to submit this year. We paused the race last year, but this year we will have a leaderboard, and we plan to acknowledge those schools that are most successful this year. And then skipping over to the other underlined one, the CSAC data dashboards. This is on a different part of our website. It's built on a Tableau platform, so as a result, it has a few more options in terms of filtering. That's really where we have more of our chronological year-over-year comparisons, as well as a lot of demographic information, in addition to the high schools and segments that students are either applying from or to. And this one's also updated twice a week, but it doesn't have the same GPA match component. So even our 2 dashboards will sometimes disagree, but together they provide a pretty good sense of where we're at. And with that, the next slide has recent screen caps of those dashboards. So for this one, for the Race to Submit dashboard, you can see that the main page of it has the dialers, as we call them. So basically showing that right now we're about a month into the application cycle, and we've reached about 15% of high school senior enrollment in terms of completed or actually submitted FAFSA and CADAs. There's no disaggregation. We're purposely not disaggregating in any of these public dashboards between FAFSA and CADA in order to protect students as we can. And then the second dial on that is actually completed applications and Cal Grant Awards. So once a student completes their FAFSA or their CADA, as long as we can match that up to a high school, that's what would allow them to have a complete Cal Grant application. And then of those students who's awarded, we haven't awarded any students yet this year, because usually we don't start that process we probably won't start until later this month. But at least this is something that will be updated so you can keep in mind on it, as well as you can see we have the countdown for the June 30th deadline as set by the AB 469 statute to see kind of where things are going. As I mentioned, this dashboard allows us to disaggregate. Right here, I just have the districts, but there is also breakdowns for individual schools. And there is some comparison with 2025 and 2024, but I'll note that all the 2024 data in this dashboard is as of the end. So as of June 30th, there's not a year-over-year comparison, but there's pretty much an idea of like, are we getting closer to that benchmark of last year's final total? However, the next slide shows our Tableau dashboards that are on the website. So the URL is posted on the top of this slide, but I'm sure someone will also post it in the chat. So for this dashboard, like I said, we have a lot more breakdown by demographics. And as well, it shows a year-to-year comparison with these three lines. We're looking not only at this year, which is shown in the orange, but also 24-25, the Better FAFSA year, in the blue. And then the gray on top, of course, is the 23-24 award year, the all-in, that first year where we had a really big push. We saw a lot of big gains. So this really is a good way to see real time where we're ending up. Of course, you can see that all the lines start at a different point, but each one of we can see how the, we get a little mathy, the slope of the line is pretty steep for this year because we're seeing a lot of activity early on. You can see in the 23-24 year, even though the application opens in October, you don't really start to see that big push for applications until January. So we're basically already getting a head start on that push. So things are looking pretty good so far. We're hoping that we're going to get close to that 23-24 number and far surpass what we were able to accomplish in 24-25. And then with the next slide, so that's total applications. There's another link on our dashboard web page for total applications by county, which of course the first page looks the same as the all applications because it is still the aggregate. But I wanted to point out this one because we actually have a new feature for this dashboard in order to facilitate comparisons across counties. We had a heat map, which compares the point in time from this year to last year. That is to say that we're looking at the first, because this year and last year's applications are opening at two different points in times, we're looking at how much time has elapsed since the application opened. So this counting map is showing where we are now for 25-26 compared to basically the beginning of February for 24-25, because those are sort of similar time frames in terms of how much time students have had to complete the application. So as you can see, we're seeing a little bit of sluggishness, I guess, in the Bay Area, but some really positive gains in the Central Valley. Again, I'll still caveat that we're still pretty early. We're only a month in. It is hard to do comparisons to last year because because the applications started at different dates. There's also a certain amount of pressure, of course, that the due date creates. You can see even here on the total applications by county line chart, there's always a spike right when the application is due. Of course, students are always applying at the last minute. So you can basically see every year when the application is, because that's applications due, because that's when the spike occurs. So we know that our biggest spike will be right when the deadline is, whether that be March 2nd or April 2nd, depending on how some of those early, the emergency action goes. But we can definitely see that we've made a good start in this first month, but we still have a ways to go before we can really see those numbers that we have reached in the 23-24 cycle, and that's why we're all here today. And then I think that's my last. Yes, so Q&A. I guess I'll look at the Q&A. Thank you, Nancy. Yes, we'll make sure all the data links are posted in the chat. And then high school soon. I don't know about the Georgina question. But if any of you have questions that you can't think of right now, but are thinking of in the future, you can always reach my team at research@csac.ca.gov. That link is also posted on our website. Like I said, I'll make sure that they will be able to post all the links in the chat if they haven't already done so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moldoff. I am someone that likes to start my morning with data, so that was really great. And I think as all of us here are well aware, our purpose with these webinars is to not only ground you in the context and the data for where we stand today in our collective work to help students apply for financial aid, but then to also make sure that we're sharing not only resources that we're developing or publishing here at the Student Aid Commission, but also really great models and examples that we can find from so many of our partners that are doing this work. And I'm really grateful that we're joined today by two just really critical partners to the Student Aid Commission and two true leaders in the work of trying to help students access not only financial aid, but all the opportunities that higher education can unlock. So I'm going to be really brief here because I really want to give our two guest speakers here as much time as possible today to share a little bit more about their work and some lessons learned that you can hopefully look at applying in your own efforts to serve students. And then we will, time permitting, we're going to come back for some Q&A. So just as a reminder, we're not going to be able to point to anyone who might have a hand raised. We do see that there are a few hands that are up. Webinar function won't allow us to invite you to share your question verbally. So please do leave your question in our Q&A box, and then we'll make sure that we can either answer that there or come back to it in the Q&A section. So without further ado, our two guest speakers today are Jacqueline Pinedo, the CEO of You Aspire, a nonprofit organization that's promoting economic mobility by helping make higher education and financial aid accessible for students across California and in many different settings. They work directly not only with counselors to support them in that work, but also working directly with students and families. After we hear from Jacqueline, we're then going to hear from Linda Dowdy, who is the director of our CalSOAP project in San Diego. Many of you here, I know CalSOAP's well represented today. Many of you might be familiar with our CalSOAP program, 16 projects across the state of California that are working to help underserved students, target student populations, access financial aid and higher education through collaborative work with their school districts and their local institutions of higher education. So really, I couldn't think of two better speakers for today's premise of how we can serve students at scale. So Jacqueline, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi, Jake. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jake, for that lovely introduction. And thank you to the entire CSAC team, Daisy, and everyone for inviting You Aspire and myself to be here this morning. And for the almost 300 folks on this call for taking the time out of not only a busy day, but a busy week, also considering what is happening with the fires across Southern California. To echo Daisy's sentiments earlier at the top of the call, I hope everyone is staying safe. We have a lot of our LA-based staff being affected too, so we are all pulling together as well. I will hopefully not take the 15 minutes, but I am going to be sharing a lot with you. But please know that everything I share is on You Aspire's website, which is youaspire.org under the resources tab. This is just a little bit of a teaser and an introduction to all of the open sourced resources that we commit our resources to providing. And similar to Daisy, I too start my day with reading You Aspire's mission. And you can see it here. And I will say that we actually did an update to our mission a few years ago because we really wanted to underscore You Aspire's unique role in the college access and success space. We are uniquely focused on affordability and financial aid uptake. And so we don't do essays and applications and all of the other 1,000 steps that young people and adult learners have to complete to meet those goals of their post-secondary education plan. But we know that a lot of those steps and goals are not able to be fulfilled without the dollars to make it happen. And we also talk about post-secondary pathways because we need You Aspire understood early on and many years ago that yes, We do commit and we want our students that we work with to achieve a college degree, but a linear 4-year path is not what we can just continue to focus on. We have to be flexible, we have to be approachable, and we have to be malleable and really follow what the student needs and help the money follow the student throughout the different decisions that they have to make over the course of their learning journey after high school. So you might see a little bit of language back and forth of post-secondary and college in some of our slides, because we are trying to help change that vision of it. It's really the student's choice and it's the student's journey. And it is our responsibility to respond and to support the student regardless of the different choices that they make. So next slide, please. And here's just a little bit more information about U Aspire's research that we did and why we are really doubling down on economic mobility as part of our work. You see those 3 bullets here is we're focused on all forms of financial aid available. We have some dollars available to provide scholarships and also emergency aid, because as you all know, a flat tire or needing to buy new lab equipment, all of those things are really choice points and significant choice points for students as they are continuing through their education. And so for us, emergency aid is also a big part of financial aid. We also, not only do we want to ensure that students are maximizing their Pell, maximizing their Cal Grant, completing their CADE application, leveraging institutional aid, but we also want to help to make sure that students are putting the dollars that they have and that has been unlocked for them, the free money, the grant aid and scholarships, etc., but they're making every single one of those dollars work really hard for them. So and I'll talk about it in a little bit, but we want to help students basically increase the ROI of the grant aid that they have available. So where are they investing those dollars? In which schools? And what do those schools, what do they deliver to the student in terms of cost for the education? So I know it's a little bit of a hot button. There's still a lack of data and a lot of work that needs to be done to connect many of those dots. But U Aspire has done some research around financially safer schools here in California. And we provide all of that data open and free to counselors, to students, to families, so that they can see where those dollars, if they place them at different schools, what is that return on that investment? And then finally, a big part of all of the work we do is ensuring that students build the skills and the knowledge to do this advocacy and navigation for themselves. We absolutely will be there for them every step of the way, but at the end of the day, we are empowering and wanting to make sure that students have the confidence and the skills to advocate for themselves. We are student-centered. Every decision that we make programmatically, including our policy work, is guided by our students. And so that's a big part of the way our curriculum is designed, and that our students are supported. And we talk to them about that. We're there behind the scenes and kind of in the trenches with them. But really, at the end of the day, the power of peer-to-peer conversations. We've seen students walking the hallways in the schools that we serve, like pulling their friends in and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go fill out my FAFSA. Come with me." It just fills my heart and my soul to see how confident and excited that students, the skills that they continue to develop when they have all of the supports that they need to the side, right behind them. And many of you are all a part of that as well. So next slide, please. So really quickly, overall, U Aspire has an integrated impact model. There's 4 main ways that we impact students. And most of you probably have heard our core advising, which is our model where we have advisors in certain high schools. And then we follow those students into their post-secondary pathway and we continue on with them. We have 6 years of curriculum, post-secondary curriculum, again, because we know a linear 4-year path is not everyone's experience. And so we have different curriculum for different years that they are either in their bachelor's degree program or an alternative post-secondary pathway that they have chosen. But I will talk a little bit more about what we call our customized support advising, because this is really what is a scalable model for you Aspire. Our in-person high school model is not scalable, but we learned very quickly through the pandemic, and we already had a lot of text-based virtual advising happening. We really beefed that up and have ensured that our resources are focused on lowering the point of entry for students. Previously, under our core model, you had to, the school had to have a partnership with us, and we had to have an advisor in the school. Now we have, through our virtual events, our advisor meetings, and our help desk, we have open sourced support for students. They can text in. It's focused on form completion, including your FAFSA and your DREAM Act, the CADA. But it doesn't require a partnership with the school or the district. We do have consent forms and all of that, and we do follow FERPA and ensuring that all of the students' data remains safe. However, it was an imperative for you Aspire to change the way we offered our support to students because we just weren't serving enough. And so this customized support is all virtual. And we have a team of advisors that respond directly to each student through the help desk. If a student wants to elevate the conversation, or if our advisor feels that the conversation needs to be elevated because of a particular student situation, we can do that to Zoom, phone call, whatever mode of communication is easiest and most comfortable for the student and or the family. But it really allows immediate connection to you Aspire's advisors. And we also have virtual events, which include either public or private walkthroughs of the FAFSA and the financial aid applications. And that is another way that allows for access to you Aspire's technical expertise and our advising staff without having to have a direct partnership. I will say this is an earned revenue model for you Aspire, so there is some cost in terms of the virtual events to the partner, but it is minimal, and we also keep it minimal. We have a lot of philanthropy subsidizing this because our goal is just to make sure that students across the state have access to our advisors. Next slide, please. And so this is an example of one of the virtual events or the webinar series that you'll be able to find on our website. And this one is coming up next in about a month. And it is a FAFSA follow-up. So this will focus on, once you complete your FAFSA, after you submit it, all of the different pieces that students and families and counselors also need to help students keep their eye on the prize and ensure that they are maximizing the Pell dollars that are available to them. So it's really easy to go on to our website and you can register for this. It's a Zoom webinar format. But this is one example of, we offer some free virtual events through our website. But if there are additional ones, then that would just, require a conversation with our team to understand what would work best for your students, the families in your school and districts, and also what your goals are to achieve for your students. So next slide, please. These are also resources on our website that you can access for free. The first one under our online resources are multilingual checklists for students, how-to videos, and other ways to help students, families, and counselors navigate the steps of financial aid application. And again, all of the processes like your review and if students are selected for verification. We have, for California in particular, we've translated everything into Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese. And you'll also see different languages because we do a lot of work in Massachusetts and New York. And so you'll see Creole and other languages available. But we do pride ourselves in ensuring that we have those multilingual resources available. We also have a college, actually, thank you. There you go. We also have a college cost calculator. And I know at this juncture of the year, the focus is really ensuring of FAFSA and CADA completion. But You Aspire really wants to ensure that the connection with students and the work with students doesn't stop there. As I mentioned, we want to make sure that students are leveraging every single dollar that they have and making sure that they're putting it to work. And so our college cost calculator is available on our website. And it's a way to compare different aid packages in an apples to apples way. You can do it directly with students. We have our students do it kind of on their own with us supporting them. So they're really learning terms like grant aid and loans. And it might seem, in our day of technological tools and advancements, it actually might seem a little outdated, the way in which a student has to enter the information. But we actually have designed it very specifically in that way because we want students to deeply understand what these aid offers say. They will get one every single year that they're applying for their FAFSA and their DREAM Act and and receiving institutional aid. So this isn't a one-time thing. And so we really want to train and educate from a financial literacy perspective, what the dollars that they have to use and where they're going. So I hope you all log on and take a look at our college cost calculator. There's some YouTube videos that go into a little bit more detail about it. But this is a really, really important tool for a student to understand. Now I have these dollars. Where am I putting them? And how am I making sure that I'm minimizing any loans that I might have to take? And understanding, what does payback mean? What is work study? Is that really available on my campus? And so it just takes the student and the family through those next decisions. And you can go to the next slide and I'll talk a little bit about our California Financially Safer Schools model. This QR code will take you to a map of community colleges, the UC, CSUs, and private schools across California that you aspire through our almost 40 years of working with students and analyzing and researching hundreds of thousands of aid offers that we have determined through a variety of different pinpoints and working with thirdway.org, which is an incredible research organization, to say, here are the schools in California that are going to maximize your dollars. All of this is available on our website. We go through how we've put the research forth and what research we used to come up with this list. We are grateful to live in California. I'm a Cal Poly Pomona proud graduate. I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they already know that they're staying in California for their education because our system is, as you all know, world class and provides the incredible education that every person in the state needs to thrive and succeed. But this is something that U Aspire is also uniquely known for, of taking it that next level. What really do those dollars mean when students have them in their pockets, and what schools are going to maximize the utilization of them? So I hope you also go onto your website and take a look at this and familiarize yourself with our research. And we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about it. Next slide, please. And finally, in terms of our training, so many of you on the call might be a training partner, thinking about working with U Aspire as a training partner. But we are also extremely proud of our technical assistance in our training work. We, over just last year in 2023, we trained over 200 counselors here in California, and then that impacted over 20,000 students. Our trainings are awesome. Everyone loves them. What happens at the beginning is our training team does an intake conversation and really works with the partner to make sure that we are meeting the goals that you all want to achieve through training. So you see here we have quite high satisfaction rates. If you can go to the next slide. This is an example of all of the course topics. You see at the top, it is really focused on federal Pell. And then we do have regional courses, particularly California DREAM Act. And again, it's kind of an a la carte situation. There's a fee for each training. But again, the intake process with our team will really ensure that we're meeting your needs, both what you can afford, but also the goals that you have in terms of counselor training and also staff training. We work with a lot of nonprofits and train their frontline staff who are also working with students to ensure that those students have access to UAspire's expertise and support as well. Part of our training provides technical assistance. And so what that looks like is there's a portal for counselors. And so if you're a counselor and you're sitting with a student and you've been trained by UAspire and it's just a really nitty-gritty situation, the counselor can reach out to our staff and get direct technical assistance to help navigate a particular situation. Finally, I think this is my last slide. UAspire also has a policy team here in California. We do focus on national and federal policy, and we do have similar resources in Massachusetts and New York. But what you see here are our policy priorities in California. AB 469, of course, satisfactory academic progress reform, and benefits access for students and families. So again, I know that was a lot. I really hope you reach out to UAspire and our team. We are super excited to partner with you or to continue to partner with you for those of you on the call that we've already worked with. So thank you, and I will pass it over.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Hi, my name is Linda Dowdy, and I'm director of the San Diego and Imperial Counties Council. And my task today is to talk a little bit about how do you do multiple cash for colleges on the same day at the same time? Next slide, please. I just want you to understand that I'm going to be covering the following things. I'm going to be talking about understanding how to mobilize a community, understanding what we do in terms of collective impact, how to organize multiple cash for colleges, and then additional sources or resources that we're able to provide. Next slide, please. First of all, one of the things that we do in San Diego and Imperial counties is whenever we host a convening of stakeholders. What we do is, over the years, I've been doing this 31 years, we've collected organizations, names of people who are about our students and our families. And what we do is we try to identify key stakeholders, people who are going to help us in this effort with financial aid. They tend to have shared goals. They tend to have shared ideas. We examine data. Where are we and where do we need to be? We talk about financial aid completion strategies. We talk about what does a unified message look like. We determine resources, like where are we finding our resources, who can help schools, who can help families. And next, what we try to do is we know that everything is constantly changing. So we try to plan forward for our next steps. Next slide, please. We start with, under a collective impact, we all start with a common agenda. And as you can look down the list, there's people who come from the following areas. They come from, some of them are council partners. We have 24. Those represent our school districts. Those represent people who are community-based organizations. We look at the TRIO programs. And we also look at higher ed. So all of us come together as one unit where we have meetings. And these are the partners. We all have that same common agenda. And for us in San Diego, financial aid is our common agenda for the last 2 years. Next slide, please. We also talk about, we need to look at shared measures. One of the things that we love CSAC is, we love the CSAC web portal. We love the idea of the NCAN FAFSA tracker to help us to understand where we're going. We also like the CSAC database, the data board, which helps us to understand. This is where the conversation begins. For us, we don't move without data because we need to see where are San Diego and Imperial counties is very large area. So we need to figure out, where do we deploy our resources? Next slide, please. We also do what's called mutually reinforced activities. For us, because we are working on the equity issues in our equity-based approach in our county. One of the things that we do is we divide our schools into tiers. Some are tier 1, some are tier 2, and some are tier 3, based upon what their individual needs are. Again, we look at that FAFSA or that CADA data, and then that's when we learn how to maximize which schools need the most support. We also do our countywide Cash for Colleges. It's a very strategic event. And our biggest event's going to happen on January 25th, 2025. That's why we call it 25-25-25. Because our job in San Diego and Imperial counties is to mobilize everybody to do in our area on that day, to go to 25 different sites. Some of them are North County, some of them are Central, some are in the Sweetwater area, and 2 of them definitely are in Imperial counties. So we're trying to do a mobilization and call attention to what we're doing. Next slide, please. We know that with SB 737, the CalSOAP and Imperial counties rallying around stakeholders for the support. They look to San Diego and Imperial County as a leader in trying to make sure we have a limited budget, but we also have almost double that budget for matching funds from our partners. By serving 2 counties, right? 24 partners, school districts, higher ed, educational nonprofits. We serve approximately 10,000 students. Of those students, 8,500 of them are the ones that we're focusing on for financial aid. And one of the things we're most proud of is we're part of the California Student Aid Commission. By being part of the California Student Aid Commission, it's very easy for me to pick up the phone and get additional data or breakdown. And that's helped us to come up with, how do we deploy staff? Next slide, please. And here's what I tell people about, how do you do multiple events? It's been significant. Last year, we found out when our parents, our students, and our families, and our schools, and the community really had no idea about this new FAFSA, better FAFSA, that was being done by the feds. So we came up with the idea of, why can't we on one day do multiple events? And even on other days, we will do 25 on January 25th, but we will also turn around on very selective days, do 5 or 10 more schools to try to make sure that parents, especially those in areas of the greatest need, receive the support. What we decided to do is this: to find volunteer sites or sites in the community that are marginalized. That means we're in some of the neediest areas, both in San Diego and Imperial County. We also communicate with sites. If you're gonna do multiple events, it's really, we have to be big on communication. We do emails, we do text messages, we do phone calls, and how we can talk about their participation. We've done a couple of webinars where we've talked with our sites about this kind of what's going to happen. Then you have to turn around and host site trainings, right? And also volunteer trainings, right? One of the things that we try to do is work with them on is, if you're not going to do the training with CalSOAP, you have to do the training with CSAC. So our volunteers are going to be well versed on making sure they're up and current about the financial aid. They're up and current about the political issues that could impact numbers and what to say. So we're working with our volunteers on that. One of the things we've learned over the years is you have to have one person that's in charge at these sites. One person that is, as I call, the shot caller, who says what goes and doesn't go, because there's nothing worse than you have a lot of volunteers, but you don't have a leader. So we determine who the lead person is. We also determine the number of volunteers based on registration. This has gone on. We've been doing that since December. It went out December. The sites have been named. And what we're doing is we are telling people to go to a specific site to sign in. The schools also are promoting it for us through all the schools that we are serving. And we serve 47 high schools across San Diego and Imperial counties. We also talk about the volunteers establishing positions today. Like there's some volunteers that come to you are very, very sweet people. They know very little about financial aid, but they can be served as registration people. They can serve as giving food out, or they can serve like that, or just encouragement, right? So we try to establish what everyone's level of proficiency is in the financial aid. And finally, what we do is look at multi-languages, diverse ethnic volunteers. One of the things that we're finding out is people are more comfortable when they're talking to someone who looks like them, someone that may have gone through the process. So that's how we kind of do our multiple events. Next slide, please. One of the things that we have tried to do is we look at additional support, our host events, right? One of our greatest partners who was part of our collaboration when we did our convening was the San Diego Foundation. The San Diego Foundation has been lockstep with us since day one with the Better FAFSA. They are paying each site that agrees to do this $500 to host a site. And then they turned around and says, you know, it would be nice if we can give some incentive to kids. So they're on top of the $500, they're also adding another $200 for incentives to those who attend. And we're going to put it on as, and we'll put them in a drawing if they complete. So we're looking at completion. And that's the end of my slides, I believe. Oh no, one more slide. And these are where we're all over the county. We're in Poway. Some of these districts, CalSoap doesn't necessarily work in, because it's a county-wide event. We're looking at multiple sites. Where do our students live? And I want to say too, is I want to give a special shout out to San Diego Public Libraries who've opened their doors to support us. We're working with superintendents in some areas who are excited for this to happen. We're also working with partners, such as like people like You Aspire or some other ones, first gens. And those people are also hosting sites within schools. So we're very excited about January 25th. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda and Jacqueline. I think you're getting a lot of hearts and claps in the Zoom chat if you can't see that. So just to thank you on behalf of the Student Aid Commission, but all of our guests here today for the work you do and for sharing these examples of how you're serving students and the kind of resources that You Aspire also makes available. So I think we were able to respond to questions as they were coming in the chat. And for time's sake, I'm going to just pass it right over to our Chief Deputy Director, Catalina Missler, to share just a couple quick reminders about resources and upcoming learning opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. And yes, thank all of you who've joined this webinar. I was perusing the list of those who are in attendance, and I see many, many names who have attended the first webinar we have, and hopefully we'll continue to get new updates as you continue to attend the future webinars. And again, encourage others to join these live webinars to get updates and up to the moment information that we have as well. So thank you all for attending this morning. As reminders for 25-26, I want to continue reminding you to check out our new resources on our CSAC homepage, the new undocumented students landing page, the school and partners and students and family portals, all in and ready for FAFSA and CADA landing page, and the toolkits, checklists, and FAQ documents and other resources. Again, as Dr. Moldoff mentioned earlier, make sure that you're tracking and checking out the FAFSA CADA, the Race to Submit dashboard for the FAFSA and CADA submission rates. And then sign up for our listserv. There's reminders going out on our latest communications on programs, on deadlines, on any new information that we have on the federal and state side. So make sure you sign, if you're not yet, sign up for our CSAC listserv. And then again, attend a Cash for College. I think, as Linda mentioned, all of the great work that they're doing out there in their community, a lot of folks to be able to sign up, and students and families to get hand-on help. And the one thing we want to also make sure is, we didn't update this on this sheet, but we wanted to let you know that our latest webinar is going to be held next Wednesday, from Wednesday, January 15th, from 10 to 11. It's the webinar on protecting student data for vulnerable populations. And we want to be able, with our partners, we want to be able to share information, as well as to give what resources and teams are available on campuses and the communities, and what these families are looking for answers in their journey to decide whether or not they're applying for financial aid, the fears they may have, dispelling any myths. So we want to be able to provide all of those resources to you, as you also that work with students, be able to provide them this information, and give them some hope and faith to continue moving forward in their educational journey, and also to assess what risks may be out there for them. So it's also making sure that we're dispelling any myths that they also may be hearing that are not true. So thank you again for joining us. And then our next webinar schedule is February the 13th. And it's going to be an opportunity to celebrate our all-in partners, and with all of the segments and our community organizations, we want to be able to recognize them and celebrate them, and also all of the good work that, as you've heard today, all of the good work that's being done is out there today, and all of the resources that are being made available to all of you and families and students. So thank you.